For nearly a decade, the Obamas were thrust into the unforgiving spotlight of media scrutiny. From the moment they occupied the White House to the day they vacated it, Barack, Michelle, Malia, and Sasha have had to withstand a relentless barrage of public attention. But while they emerged largely unscathed with their reputation and dignity intact, Michelle said that it wasn't easy. In fact, she was openly opposed to Barack running for president, something that the former president said he was still making up for years after leaving the White House. In a 2020 interview on The Late Show, he dished that his wife tried to talk him out of vying for the Oval Office seat, primarily due to the impact it would have on their family. Her initial response was no. He recalled, adding that down the line, she had a change of heart. But what is absolutely true is, and I've never fully got out of the doghouse for this, is that I put her and our kids through an extraordinarily stressful, difficult sequence in deciding to run for president right after I had just gone through a tough race. Per Barack, Michelle stayed mad about it through all 8 years. Michelle's frustration was justified, given the intense media attention the Obamas experienced during those 8 years, and even thereafter. Despite managing the spotlight with remarkable grace and poise, the becoming author admitted that dealing with public exposure was one of the most difficult trials she and her family had to endure. Michelle admitted it was exhausting, having to carry the weight of fame. While the Obamas diligently prepared for their tenure in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, what was eventually handed to them was worse than they had imagined. The White House tests you in ways that you never anticipated. That was our values, our compassion, our smarts, our strategy that got us through. Michelle Obama said in a 2024 episode of the podcast On Purpose with Jay Shetty. Michelle further explained this in the 2020 Becoming Netflix documentary, detailing how all of them had to be careful about their actions, lest they want to be misinterpreted. Each member of the family was acutely aware of being under constant surveillance. Every gesture you make, every blink of an eye is analyzed, she said via CNN. You have the world watching every move you make. Your life isn't yours anymore. Despite the intense pressures of their public life, the Obamas never lost sight of their responsibility, a key factor in maintaining their unblemished public image. It was no accident that the administration was scandal-free. It was no accident that our children had to show up right in the world. They carried a burden of making sure they weren't messy because it wouldn't have been laughed off, Michelle shared in a 2023 episode of her podcast, The Light, on Audible. So we didn't underestimate that, but that weight is exhausting when you're carrying that. Michelle got emotional after leaving the White House. The weight of the world that Michelle Obama and her family shouldered for 8 long years reached its climax almost as soon as they departed from the presidential home. In a revelation to Oprah during the Becoming Press tour, Michelle admitted that she couldn't help but let out a cathartic cry during that moment. When I got on the plane, I think I sobbed for 30 minutes, she recalled via USA Today. And I think it was just the release of 8 years of trying to do everything perfectly. I said to Barack, that was so hard. What we just did, that was so hard, and I've wanted to say that for 8 years. But even though the Obamas will always attract some level of media attention, Michelle, who makes a stunning amount of money post-White House, felt a palpable sense of relief after husband's presidency met its end. Now, we're out of the White House, not to be viewed, judged, and parceled by every other person on the planet. Yeah, it's better. It's absolutely freeing, she said in the Becoming documentary. Despite this, she reaffirms that it was an absolute honor to have served as the First Lady. But how many people are in that position where the entire attention of everything is you? Every gesture you make, every blink of an eye is being analyzed, she added. Barack and I are not interested in being at the forefront forever, not even for that much longer. Sasha and Malia Obama have been in the spotlight since they were 7 and 10 years old. respectively, when their father, Barack Obama, was elected president of the United States in 2008. Whether they're getting flack for not being enthused about the annual Thanksgiving turkey pardoning or popping up on Snapchat during an intense game of beer pong, the Obama sisters have no doubt blossomed into young women with a presence of their own while under the public's watchful eye. While their father's time as POTUS may have ended in January 2017, America's fascination with the Obama girls continues to this day. They've gone on to build adult lives on their own, forging budding careers, celebrity friendships, and even some romantic connections since their early days as the first daughters. While they may not be strolling the perfectly manicured lawns of the president's palace any longer, the paparazzi still keep tabs as to what exactly these two are up to. There's nothing like dear old dad getting the proverbial keys to the White House. At least, that's what Sasha Obama thought when she gave Barack Obama the ultimate sign of approval after he was sworn in as America's 44th president in January 2009. The former first daughter, who was just 7 at the time, adorably flashed her dad a thumbs up and a cheesy grin during the inauguration ceremony in a sweet moment captured by photographers. At the time, Sasha was the youngest child to call the White House home since John F. Kennedy Jr., who was only a couple months old when his father became president in 1961. She had a lot to grin about too, as visions of private chefs and a room fit for a queen awaited her and older sister, Malia Obama. Not that the two didn't have their reservations about the big move. They have a wonderful life in Chicago. They have lifelong friends in Chicago, and the prospects of having to make new friends, that's never something that kids are looking forward to, Barack told people of his daughters in 2008, months before his win. So I'm sure that there's a part of them that says we won't be heartbroken if things don't work out. The Obama sisters have had their fair share of iconic moments, ones that some American citizens could only dream about. Malia and Sasha Obama had the privilege to meet with former South African president and civil rights leader Nelson Mandela in 2011 before he died just 2 years later. The daughters took a trip to South Africa to meet with the then 92-year-old peacemaker in his Johannesburg home, alongside their mother, Michelle Obama, and grandmother Marion Robinson. In a photograph shared by the Nelson Mandela Foundation via the Times Union, Malia and Sasha are seen sitting on a sofa alongside Mandela and Michelle. The trip was part of a goodwill stop in South Africa and Botswana, marking a rare moment in which the retired anti-apartheid hero allowed visitors. Barack Obama paid a visit to South Africa alongside his daughters, and Michelle 2 years later, pictured above, while Mandela was in the hospital at the time in critical condition. The family visited the former South African president's former prison cell, where he spent 18 out of 27 years fighting for the end of apartheid before his release. Seeing them stand within the walls that once surrounded Nelson Mandela, I knew this was an experience they would never forget, the former president said of his daughter's visit to the prison, per the New York Times. Mandela died several months later at the age of 95.